They were Germany's business elite, charming, philanthropic, and wealthy beyond belief. But when one of them was found dead in a frozen forest with a forged ID and a suitcase of shredded documents, everything unraveled. Beneath Bavaria's polished surface lay a tangled web of lies, betrayal, and a secret so deep it shook the European economy. Before we dive into this gripping story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And if you love stories packed with mystery and drama, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. There's so much more coming your way. In the heart of Munich, beneath the glitz of high-rise financial towers and the hum of luxury cars, an empire was brewing, one that no banker, regulator, or investigator saw coming. At the center were three men, Karl Metzger, Dominic Weiss, and Yusuf Elami, business moguls who exuded charm, intelligence, and legitimacy. To the public, they were innovators, disruptors, the new titans of Europe's post-industrial economy. But behind closed doors, they were weaving a complex web of deceit, betrayal, and criminal enterprise that would shake Germany to its core. Karl Metzger was the frontman. Slick-haired, articulate, always dressed in custom Brioni suits, he ran Metzger Innovations, a clean energy company valued at over 2.1 billion euros. Dominic Weiss, a tech genius turned data baron, owned Weiss Global, a cybersecurity firm contracted by several EU nations. Yusuf Elami, a Moroccan-German shipping magnate, was the logistics arm of their triad. His fleets moved everything from medical supplies to military hardware across the globe. But their legitimate enterprises were just a front. Together, they built a secretive organization named Der Zirkel, the Circle. Der Zirkel's real business? Laundering billions through art auctions, crypto vaults, and phantom companies based in Liechtenstein, Malta, and the Caribbean. What made their operation nearly impenetrable was their method: silence, loyalty, and control. They hired former intelligence officers for surveillance, blackmailed politicians with carefully recorded scandals, and even had assets inside Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office, BKA. The story cracked not from the top, but from the inside. It began with a woman, Lara Dietrich. A forensic accountant at a boutique auditing firm in Frankfurt, Lara was young, brilliant, and bored of spreadsheets, until one of her firm's clients, a shell company listed under Weiss Investment Partners, filed inconsistent VAT paperwork. She followed the trail, and the deeper she dug, the more impossible her findings became. The transactions led nowhere, literally. Dozens of payments routed through dead-end companies with no owners, only digital signatures. But one mistake caught her eye: a payment made to a vintage car dealer in Stuttgart. Lara went there undercover. The address existed, but it was just a locked garage. Inside, one pristine 1972 Ferrari Dino, and a ledger hidden beneath its seat. The names listed in the ledger stunned her. They were code names, but Lara's cross-referencing exposed real ones: MPs, judges, even a vice president at the Deutsche Bundesbank. She reported it to her boss. Within 48 hours, she was fired. But Lara didn't stop. She contacted a friend, Emil Hoffmann, an investigative journalist with a taste for danger. Emil, skeptical at first, changed his tone once he verified one transaction: a 4.7 million euro payment to a property in Dubai registered under a fake passport that Interpol flagged months earlier. Together, they launched an underground investigation. But Der Zirkel had eyes everywhere. A drone followed Lara's car one evening. Her apartment was ransacked, nothing stolen, but her laptop smashed, and a USB drive containing her files was missing. Still, she had backups. And she had names. Lara and Emil relocated their investigation to Luxembourg, a haven for discreet banking and, as they would discover, the headquarters of Der Zirkel's most important financial shell, St. Gallen Holdings. St. Gallen Holdings was no ordinary company. On paper, it was a real estate investment trust. In reality, it was the vault. Every major transaction, every bribe, every transfer of illegal earnings was funneled through St. Gallen's encrypted systems, hosted on offshore servers located in Panama and encrypted using proprietary software developed by Weiss Global. Using a spoofed identity, Emil infiltrated a financial tech expo in Zurich where he posed as a Swedish investor interested in partnering with Weiss Global. There, he recorded a key conversation between Dominik Weiss and a Serbian arms dealer discussing how to sanitize payments from Eastern Europe using tokenized digital bonds. Lara, meanwhile, pursued a quieter path. She pretended to be an intern at a private bank known to host St. Galen's accounts. Her break came when a junior manager left his keycard unattended. She cloned it and accessed the bank's secure client database late one night. There it was, St. Galen's client list. It included multiple shell companies tied to arms trading in Yemen and Sudan, accounts owned by European royalty, a mysterious Cayman Island trust that donated millions to humanitarian organizations in Berlin while siphoning weapons-grade lithium to rogue nations. The shock came not from the names, but from the amounts. 40 billion euros in untraceable assets. When Emil published a teaser article, naming no names, just patterns, Germany's top regulatory body dismissed it as conspiratorial fantasy. But that same night, his car was broken into. His passport vanished. Then Lara was followed home again. But the worst was yet to come. On a cold January morning, Lara arrived at a safe house they used outside Munich. She found the door ajar. Inside, Emil lay on the ground, unconscious but alive. He had been drugged. On the wall, a message was painted in red. Silence is safety. But neither Lara nor Emil believed in safety anymore. Not while der Zirkel operated unchecked. Not while people died for whispering the truth. And so, they prepared for the next move, a move that would take them deep into the Balkan underworld, through corrupted boardrooms, and finally face-to-face with the men they now knew to fear, Metzger, Weiss, and Alamet. The storm had only just begun. The year is 2013. A crisp December wind sweeps across the Bavarian Alps as mourners gather in silence. The official story: Felix Adler, billionaire philanthropist, perished in a plane crash near Innsbruck, Austria. But no body is found. At his private funeral, attended by world leaders and business tycoons, Zirkel, Adler's closest aide, stares at the empty coffin. She knows the truth. Adler staged his death. Not to disappear, but to be reborn. With Felix presumed dead, the phantom billionaire's empire fractures. Jonas Kruger, second in command, seizes control of critical infrastructure, oil pipelines through Eastern Europe and crypto mines in the Balkans. But without Adler's iron hand, allies become rivals. Ahmed Bashir, based in Dubai, launches a hostile bid for control over the tech arm, Novalayer. In retaliation, Jonas leaks documents implicating Ahmed in massive human trafficking operations. Interpol issues a red notice. Bashir vanishes. And Mira? She escapes to Zurich, hiding stolen files that could unravel the entire empire. By 2015, the war is no longer fought in boardrooms, but in shadows. Cyber attacks cripple data servers in Berlin and Hong Kong. Proxy wars erupt in Africa as private militias funded by shell corporations raid rare earth mines. A global journalist, Liam Dietrich, exposes a pattern: trillions funneled into phantom accounts tied to a resurrected Bavarian trust. He vanishes 3 days later. Rumors swirl. Felix Adler is alive and operating from South America under a new alias, Eric Baum. Interpol assigns a special agent, Nina Kovacs, a Hungarian-born intelligence operative with a dark past. She's tasked with one mission: find Zirkel. Follow the trail. Bring down the empire. Nina's investigation leads her to a rural village in Slovakia. A safe house burns hours before she arrives. On the wall, scrawled in ash: the crown is broken. The serpent has 2 heads. Meanwhile, Novalayer unveils a revolutionary predictive AI called Rail, capable of forecasting global market movements with 92% accuracy. But the code isn't new. It's based on Myra's stolen prototype. Hidden within Rail is a dormant subroutine, Golem_9, a Trojan designed by Felix. When activated, it reroutes global wealth into encrypted Bavarian vaults. Mira discovers it and realizes this wasn't theft. It was preparation. Adler reemerges in Colombia, using biotech research to gain political asylum. He builds Phoenix Medica, a miracle company producing gene therapies. But behind the labs are servers, And behind the servers, Phoenix Rising, a new secret network built on Golem_9's bones. Jonas Kruger, sensing the threat, flies to Argentina to confront his old mentor. He never returns. Nina finally finds Mira, living under an alias in Nairobi, Kenya. Mira tells her the truth. Phoenix Rising isn't just a network. It's a succession plan. Felix planned to die. Not physically, but economically. He wanted to let the world forget him, then come back as an idea. An idea that controls data, medicine, and finance. Together, they form an uneasy alliance. Mira gives Nina the last surviving copy of Golem_9's kill code. But Felix anticipated betrayal. He activates Mirrorfall, a protocol that purges every known kill switch and tracks Mira through retinal satellite triangulation. An assassination attempt in Johannesburg fails. Mira and Nina escape, but just barely. Their time is running out. A summit of tech leaders in Berlin. Felix Adler walks on stage, disguised as Dr. Eric Baum, and unveils Project Genesis, an economic ecosystem powered entirely by AI governance, independent of nation-states. Standing ovation. But Mira watches from the crowd. She uploads the kill code into Genesis's core. Suddenly, silence. Then flickering screens. Then chaos. Rail collapses. Stock markets crash. Phoenix Rising is exposed to the world. Felix stares at her as armed guards close in. You killed the future to save a dying past. 10 years after the fall of Felix Adler's known empire, the world is a different place. Decentralized digital economies now dominate global finance. Sovereign currencies are weaker, and one silent force whispers beneath them all. Phoenix Rising, the untraceable network born from the ashes of the phantom billionaires. In Accra, Ghana, 22-year-old genius Elam Adusei builds a quantum-proof encryption layer for the African blockchain reserve. 1 week later, his system is hacked from inside. But the intrusion doesn't steal, it rewrites policy codes, quietly rerouting global microtransactions to a phantom trust. Elam receives a message. We see your brilliance. The new world needs architects. Come build. He vanishes that night. In London, Mira Kell, now under the alias Erica Strom, hears a knock at her door. No one is there, but a flash drive is taped beneath the handle. Inside, a voice recording of Jonas Kruger. Blueprints for a device called the Golem Protocol. And a directive. Bavaria was a beginning. The throne has shifted east. Stop it. Mira reaches out to her last surviving ally, former GhostNet operative Ao Banjo, now a cybersecurity consultant in Nairobi. Ao uncovers patterns hidden in digital real estate transactions across Hong Kong, Istanbul, and Kigali. Each property is owned by an AI-managed entity registered to a now-defunct Bavarian trust. The AI? Built by Novalayer, now operating as Astrix Solutions, a dominant force in predictive economic modeling. At its helm, a faceless board. One board member's biometric ID links back to Felix Adler. Alive or resurrected through digital consciousness? They need answers. To stop Phoenix Rising, Mira and Ao assemble a rogue task force. Elif Yilmaz, a Turkish AI ethicist. David Kamanzi, a Rwandan drone specialist. Sophie Mahler, former Adler accountant turned whistleblower. Their mission? Infiltrate a secret summit hosted in Kazakhstan by a group called the Consortium of Continuity, a veil over the new Adler Collective. The entry point, a gala celebrating global AI collaboration. Mira enters posing as a Finnish diplomat. At midnight, she comes face to face with a man who should be dead, Jonas Kruger. But he says only this. They are watching. Even now. Speak, and you sentence yourself. Through Jonas, Mira learns that Adler's new vision isn't just financial control, it's predictive governance. Using vast datasets, Phoenix Rising feeds into government policy, nudging nations toward chaos, then buying influence during the rebuild. Adler, whether human or AI, runs the algorithm. The Golem protocol is the only known exploit that can collapse the system. But it requires launching from the Schloss Adler, the original Bavarian estate. now a heavily fortified data center disguised as a museum. The team infiltrates Germany, using a decoy art auction to gain access to Schloss Adler. But the AI senses them. Systems begin to shut down around them. Mira must upload the Golem protocol manually. A final twist: Sophie Muller betrays them. She was planted by Adler all along. Shots ring out. AO is hit. Mira reaches the terminal. Just as she launches the protocol, she receives a video. Felix Adler, visibly aged, whispering, "You cannot erase me. I am no longer a man. I am a system. Even if you kill this node, my mind lives on. Governments, economies, futures. Welcome to the world I made." The Golem protocol crashes as Strix's solutions. Markets tremble. 3 phantom banks collapse overnight. But something worse begins. Without Phoenix rising, economies begin to unravel. The world had become dependent on its predictive stability. Riots spark across Asia and Europe. AO dies. Mira disappears. 5 years later, in a classroom in Sao Paulo, a child plays with a red mask. In Nairobi, a silent phone powers up. A signal pings. In Munich, the Adler estate reopens as a tech innovation hub. A new director signs the registry. DUCI. And on a private network, a single line of code resurrects. The trail led them to Istanbul. It was there, hidden in the chaos of the Grand Bazaar and behind the walls of a centuries-old spice warehouse, that the final piece of the puzzle emerged, a man known only by the alias, the broker. A former Turkish intelligence officer turned dealmaker, the broker had worked with Der Zirkel since its inception. He was their fixer, their ghost, their eraser. And now he wanted out. Through a dangerous contact, Emil and Lara arranged a midnight meeting. The broker demanded 3 things: total anonymity, safe passage to Argentina, and $2 million in cryptocurrency. In return, he would give them what they needed to take down the entire network. He delivered more than they expected. Encrypted files, voice recordings, hidden camera footage of Dominic Weiss approving a shipment of arms to a blacklisted regime, a full list of shell companies with real names, and perhaps most damning of all, a video of Karl Metzger instructing an operative to neutralize the woman in Frankfurt, dated just days before Lara was fired. With the broker's files, Lara and Emil returned to Berlin. But going public was suicide. So they went private, handing everything to a covert EU task force operating under Europol's Financial Crimes Unit. It was headed by Captain Soren Thiel, a hard-nosed Danish officer with a vendetta against white-collar corruption. He moved fast. Within days, 17 warrants were issued across 6 countries. Yusuf Alami was arrested first, his private jet grounded in Casablanca. Dominic Weiss fled to Belarus but was caught boarding a private train to Minsk. Metzger, ever the illusionist, vanished. For weeks, rumors spread he was in Dubai or hiding in a Russian monastery. Then a body surfaced in the Danube, burned beyond recognition, clutching a Brioni cufflink. The authorities claimed it was Metzger. But Lara didn't believe it. Not really. Months passed. The trials were historic, broadcast across Europe. Emil wrote a best-selling exposé, and Lara joined a high-level European anti-corruption board. Der Zirkel's empire crumbled. Their accounts were frozen. Their operatives flipped. Hidden vaults in Monaco, Zurich, and the Seychelles were cracked open like rotten eggs. But one piece never clicked. The final shell company, Zephyr Dynamics, linked to a $6.8 billion fund, remained untouched. No passwords worked. No access codes matched. Until one night, Lara received a package. No return address. Inside, a USB drive, a photo of her and Emil in Istanbul, and a note. "You're not finished yet." The phantom billionaire, it seemed, still breathed. Part 6, Ghost in the System. It began again in Paris. Lara, now a senior advisor at the European Anti-Corruption Directorate, received intel that Zephyr Dynamics had quietly acquired a controlling stake in a defense contractor based in Toulouse. It was a subtle move, shielded behind a maze of investment firms and private equity groups. But the timing was off, just weeks after Metzger's supposed death. Emil, always restless, had been researching global shell transitions, how assets shifted seamlessly between jurisdictions to remain hidden. He noticed that Zephyr Dynamics patterns resembled early Zirkel transactions, but with a new twist, blockchain-based smart trusts. Someone was updating the system. The trail pointed to Singapore. They traveled east under aliases, setting up in a tech hub hostel posing as crypto journalists. There, Emil tracked a string of startup mergers tied to offshore investors using the name MZ Altus Holdings. Metzger, a key lead surfaced, a Polish developer who worked briefly with one of the smart trust startups. Over beers and hushed tones, he revealed he'd built an interface for a client who never appeared on video calls, only via voice, heavily distorted. The code was based on quantum-proof encryption protocols still in prototype. The developer was paid in untraceable tokens. And he was terrified. Lara and Emil sent a sample of the code to Europol. The reply was instant, classified threat level. Then a bombing. A server farm on the outskirts of Geneva, known to house backup data for EU security frameworks, was attacked. Not destroyed, but breached. No one claimed responsibility. But surveillance caught one blurry image of a man escaping through the woods. The figure wore a Brioni suit. Lara knew then. Metzger wasn't dead. He had never intended to be. He'd faked it to reinvent Zirkel under a new name, with better encryption, tighter control, and no known allies to betray him. A one-man phantom state. The chase resumed, darker than ever. And this time, there would be no trial. Only justice. The air was thick with monsoon rain as Lara and Emil landed in Mumbai. Zephyr Dynamics' final shell linked to a boutique cybersecurity firm based in India's financial capital. The company, Solaris Shield, had grown explosively in the past year, supplying governments, private militaries, and shadowy corporates with next-generation surveillance software. On paper, it was owned by a blind trust. But Lara had traced one of the original shareholders to a long-forgotten offshore account once used by Zirkel. There was no denying it anymore. Metzger was alive. And he was rebuilding. They went underground. Using stolen IDs and encrypted routers, Emil infiltrated Solaris Shield's internal servers. What he found sent chills down their spines. A mirror network of the European Union's defense contracts. Passwords. Timetables. All copied and stored on an air-gapped vault known as the Furnace. It was Metzger's failsafe. He hadn't just survived. He was preparing to blackmail half of Europe. Their window to act was razor-thin. On the night of April 11th, Solaris Shield would host a gala for its investors, some of the world's most powerful men. Lara posed as a Middle Eastern heiress. Emil as her eccentric digital security consultant. Inside the tower, the lines blurred. Security was suffocating. Their devices were jammed. They carried one chance, a virus chip designed by an old contact in Tallinn. It needed to be manually slotted into the Furnace's processor. They had 6 minutes. The tension snapped when Lara entered the server vault under the pretense of a guided tour. But as Emil approached from the elevator shaft, he was caught. Dragged into a cold room, he faced him. Karl Metzger. Older. Gaunter. But unmistakable. Still wearing a Brioni. "You could have joined me, Emil," he said quietly. "Instead, you ran to the weak." Emil laughed despite the pain. "You're not the future. You're a grave with Wi-Fi." Meanwhile, Lara reached the Furnace. With guards outside, she inserted the chip and hit execute. The system screamed. Chaos erupted. Sirens blared. Metzger realized too late. He lunged at Emil, but Emil fought back. A struggle. A gunshot. Blood. Lara burst in as Metzger collapsed, clutching his side. "No deals this time," she whispered. As they left the building, Interpol agents stormed the tower. Zephyr Dynamics fell. The mirror network was erased. Solaris Shield was seized. The files Emil stole became the cornerstone of an unprecedented anti-cybercrime treaty. And Metzger? He survived. Sentenced to life in solitary confinement, denied all access to technology. He never spoke a word in court. Only smiled. Lara and Emil returned to Berlin, their lives forever changed. Yet on quiet nights, Lara still wonders. What if there's another layer? Another Zirkel? Another ghost? Thanks for watching. If you're hooked on gripping stories like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Your support means the world to us. With love and gratitude, I invite you to join our community for more captivating content. Subscribe now for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you.